The issue of Someone's Watching Me is it had a pretty interesting story that came out of real life about these facing buildings, and that one woman who lives in this glass box is watched by somebody else and doesn't know it. That was fascinating at the time. But you see, that was back in the 70s. Now, that's old hat now, you know. Everybody's a voyeur, even you. Originally, this movie was titled High Rise, and it didn't come about from any success of anything I'd done as a director. Throughout the 70s, I was basically a screenwriter for hire, because I had sold a couple of things that got made. It was a great way of making a living. So I was hired by Warner Brothers to work on this true-to-life event that happened, I believe, in Chicago. And I took, basically, the true story. My addition was making it a maintenance man or something like that. As I remember, that was, how does he have the access to all the rooms, and how does he get in and out of places? So I wrote it as a feature, and this was 1977, the year before I made it. And it was a little, I guess, for the time, a little soft for them, or it didn't have enough to it. So it turned over to the TV department, and my agents had gotten me an agreement when I wrote it to be considered as director. And so they hire me. By this point in my career, I had directed 2 things only, Dark Star and Assault on Precinct 13, so I was green. I'd never worked on a union show. I got to know Reuben Cannon, who was the casting director at Warner's, became a long, long friend and a collaborator. We've done a lot of movies together. We started casting the movie. I cast Lauren Hutton, and she was just interesting to me. She was a model, and she'd acted in a couple of things. I wanted to see if I could, could get a performance out of her that was just something she hadn't done, and she was very interested in it. Cast Adrienne Barbeau in it, and my future wife at the time. And the network wanted somebody from television. They cast David Burney, who had been on a TV show, a comedy. And I started interviewing cameramen, and I chose Robert Hauser. Bob Hauser was just a fabulous old-time cameraman. When the first meeting we had, he said, the last time I went to dailies was when color came in. I want to see what the difference was. And now I know what it is. I don't have to go. And he had a crew with him, and so off we went. We shot it in, I believe, under 10 days. And most of it was on sets, built at Warner Brothers. And for the time, that we had, I think it was elegantly lit. These guys were fast. And we actually tried a dolly back, zoom in, Hitchcock type trick from the Marnie trick, which has been done 100 million times now. But we tried it. It didn't work out great, but it was okay. We were racing across the floor backwards on a dolly and zooming in at the same time, trying to time it. Now, they have machines to do that now, more technology, but back then we didn't have it. There is one shot on location that was the most dangerous, one of the most dangerous things I've done. There are 2 high-rises in Santa Monica, near the beach. They both face each other. They're right distance. So we found we didn't have to create that. We got up on the top of the roof and pointed a camera down the building. Lauren Hutton got in one of the windows near the top, and our production manager had a safety rope around her, and he was dressed in the trench coat. And she was fighting him and threw herself outside the window. It was unbelievable to watch. She really got into it. She was great. My career started with making films that were financed independently, so I could have my cut. But you had to build that up. You got to prove yourself to earn that, see. It was cut, I wasn't in on the editing. I was cut, and they showed it to me, and this is great. And I worked with a composer for the first time. And that was interesting. I hadn't done that before. I'd always done my own music. So I had to sit in a spotting session with a composer. I want music here and music here. It was interesting. So that came from later, from Halloween and the movies that followed it. That's where I began to build that idea up, but I didn't have anything. I was a part of an assembly line. Someone's Watching Me, I learned some real basic director things about how to take care of myself during a shoot, how to pace myself, how to accomplish the work for the day. Real kind of bread and butter problems that need to be solved if I was going to be a director that brought a film in on budget and on time. When we quit, 2 weeks later, I was shooting Halloween. Frankly, A lot of the style and the flow of Halloween can be directly related to Someone's Watching Me. And I know that sounds odd, but a lot of the framing of the shots and a lot of the movements, and we did use a Panaglide a little bit, or Steadicam on Someone's Watching Me. That was the year I probably worked the most and the hardest. I worked 3 projects that year, 1978. Someone's Watching Me, Halloween, and I did this 3-hour television movie, Elvis. Man, I broke my balls on that thing. I got so much experience that year as a director, because I got to go in and make mistakes in certain areas, and I got to, every time I would realize, don't go there again, either with a stylistic element or directing an actor. But Someone's Watching Me is kind of an unknown movie in my career. You know, it has its limitations in the fact that it is a TV movie. And it has its limitations, the fact we had very little time, it wasn't written big, but I'm really proud of it. I really like it. It all turned out great.